order, the recycle bin or what?
Either one.
Because we've got a lot today, and I'll just say from the get-go, my goal is that we will vote on this thing by the end of the evening.
Woohoo! So,
Yeah. So let's get going. Welcome all to the West Side Planning Committee meeting. It is Tuesday, January 31st at 5:05 p.m. and we're meeting in the city conference room at the city conference, the city center building. First item on our agenda is a roll call. Let's start with David Day.
David Day.
John Christian. Sarah McNamara.
Dave Beck.
David Harding.
Kate Buren.
Beth Allen.
Gary Winterton.
Bill Holterstrom.
Elizabeth Vanderwerken.
We'll invite our visitors as well.
Greg Beckstrom.
Dixon Holmes.
Becky Godfrey. Diana Taylor.
Matt Carter.
Great. Thank you.
And we have Shannon Ellsworth on a conference call.
Welcome, Shannon. This is Ms. Ellsworth. And Cliff is in and out, so he's part of this as well. Are there any suggested changes for the minutes for our last meeting, January 24th? Seeing none, I will look for a motion to approve these minutes.
So moved.
And a second, sorry, thank you, Mr. Holsterstrom. Any seconds? Thank you, Ms. Allagood. All in favor? Excellent. Ms. Christensen? All right, and any opposed? Excellent, that was unanimous. Let's pull up. We're going to.
This document?
Yeah. So all of you have it in front of you. Let's just kind of jump into it. So starting with the purpose, there was one recommendation that we shorten the purpose, basically take out that phrase there, talking about supporting farmers for as long as they choose to farm. Throwing in a couple of words, and in my opinion, it reads just fine. The purpose of these policies is to guide development in West Provo as it occurs in order to promote a smart, sustainable, vibrant community that offers a high quality of life for current and future residents. So I think that standalone reads pretty well. I'm not going to lose any sleep over that change, but I'd like to make a quick advocate for it as the original as written. If you can just kind of scroll. Yes.
I would like to suggest that we drop, I know that people think of West Provo as a different community, but I would suggest that maybe we change that to the west side of Provo, or rather than capitalize it as if it's like far west or some other
distinct community. Thoughts on that? We've kind of gone back and forth on this. We'll start with that.
Just a quick question, does that imply all of West Provo, like Lakeview North and Lakeview South, or are we just really focusing on the southern neighborhoods?
We could say southwest area because with capitalized because that is a distinct geographic.
Well, but technically the southwest area is everything west of the freeway.
You're right. That's correct. I apologize. That's right. I forgot on that. Okay. Remember, we're communicating. This is not necessarily an official document. We're just communicating this to the council. This will go out for public comment, though.
At first blush, I don't see anything in here that wouldn't apply. I mean, some things would not maybe apply because the agriculture is mostly down in this area. But unless there's something that would not work in the northern part, then why not just the whole west side?
Other than our scope has been, so I don't know because I haven't considered what might apply and not apply to the north, but
it wouldn't change specific development plans, correct?
No.
Then it wouldn't affect the northern neighborhoods.
Any other west side residents in the audience have an opinion? Is west side preferred? West Provo preferred? Western portion of Provo?
My question is, are these policies just for Southwest Provo, or is it for the west side of Provo altogether?
The committee that we were commissioned to focus on the 4 neighborhoods which are south of the river and west of the freeway. So that's technically our commission.
Then, we are different than our neighbors to the north because we do have all the agriculture. And so I would prefer some distinction between them.
I would put southwest as small letters, southwest Provo.
Southwest, small, and then capital P.
Is there going to be another committee to do north of Center Street? Or are they gonna go,
It's
okay,
pretty
let's
much
apply this to that?
North of the river.
North of Center Street is pretty much, north of the river is pretty much all, planned developments.
But I would say we are putting a policy in here about where the urban growth boundary is. And if we're saying that the connector road is it ought to be it
Then
everywhere.
the specific plan shall
I think
change.
I think the council can look and say, well, this is the policy we applied to this area is similar in these ways, what do we want to apply?
Okay.
I'm not too worried about that. I like the proposal, southwest, lowercase, and then capital P, Provo. Any objections?
I like that,
Perfect.
but I
Okay.
don't know when you say, you can cross off the policies are to support farmers, but then
Okay,
down below you've
we'll
got-
get to that
you've
next.
got the other part down there that mentions it again.
Do we have someone who can make these changes as we talk about them?
I'm trying to, we
Okay.
had, she pulled up the Word, the PDF, not the Word document.
okay.
Pull that up.
Well, this is blinking here. Right now,
PDF though.
It's a
it's a
PDF.
PDF?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm gonna make my pitch on why I think that first statement, and you've got it in front of you. This thing is roughly 1/4, if you look at all of the policies, all the lines, all the policies, it's roughly 1/4 subparts of policy 1, which talks about agriculture and agricultural heritage. And then it's about 3/4 talking about development. So in this purpose statement, we've got roughly about 1/4 of it talking about agriculture, and then the other 3/4, well, 2/3 of it or whatever talks about development. So I think if we cut this part out, I think that number 1 kind of is floating by itself. It's like, well, if this is the purpose, why are we talking about something that's not guiding development? So that's one reason. Second reason, there are, I think, concerns, people out there wondering, like, is the city trying to bully farmers out of the business? I think by putting this in, I think that's just a reassuring, saying, hey, we're not pushing you out. This is a long-term vision, and when you want to sell and when the land's going to develop, these 2 through 7 is how it has to happen. But 1 is saying that we're also here to support the farmers.
Until they're ready to sell.
Okay, so I think that was my pitch. So I saw your hand first, and then we'll go Bill, and then go for it.
Okay, I agree with what you just said. It's in the document and it ties it together. If you want to tie it together even further, you can say, leave that first part in, and then when it gets to guide development, you can say to guide residential and commercial development in the Southwest, because it does all those things, residential, commercial, and agriculture.
Okay. Bill?
To me, the plan is so much more than, I think the plan of supporting farmers, which you just illustrated, you made that the lead paragraphs of the policies, which says this is important. The plan is so much more than just that. That's why I think it skews us up in the wrong direction when you keep it in your purpose statement.
Okay.
And I struggle with the word support because I don't know what that means. And when you start talking about that, all those things down there, I struggle with those, all those. It depends on how, do we want the city to spend a lot of money on it? I'm struggling with it. I want them to stay as long as they can want to stay. I agree with that. And
Well, some of the things that they do though, with the development, forces them out.
it will, there's no question.
And that's the problem for those that already do farm.
And it doesn't force them out in the fact that they choose to go out because of the development. That's what it is. They choose to go out because of the development.
Well, when you have lines running across your property.
It doesn't go, well,
That's the problem for the farmer.
That's why I was
And-
for limiting it doesn't go across.
I understand that, and they need to be compensated for that, and I agree with that. But I just struggle with, I struggle with saying, well, I've just seen that word used as a weapon.
Yeah.
Support?
Huh?
Support,
Yes.
is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Support
That's
has a
a,
lot of different meanings though to it, and if you're looking at like the two main ones as a verb, it's to bear all or part of the weight. To as another verb, it's to give assistance to, especially financially, enable to function or act. Now, when you go into the synonyms, it's help, aid, assist. I think people encourage things like that. I wonder if, I think it's broad enough, support is broad enough that future councils, the existing council and future councils will be able to weigh those decisions.
we couldn't do it with solar.
Can we scroll down just a little bit? Just get to the end of one. Okay.
And that's my only thing, Cliff.
Sure.
So it says support here, but really the only other place that says support.
It's not me, it's the machine.
I know. But sometimes it's easier to use the scroll bar rather than the scroll wheel. The only other place where it says support is in here. All the rest is pretty explicit that, maybe it's encourage our state legislature. It's, explore this, but it even says fund by private citizens. I think we tried to kind of keep this, that we're not promising financial support.
And that's my only thing. I just don't want people to look at it and say, well, you promised me you would support me. So Howard, give this.
Put in there not financial support.
How about just encourage farmers?
Or just allow.
Allow.
I mean, don't all those bullet points below
Enable.
talk about what support, what is going to happen?
That's my take on it. Is what does support mean? Well, support means this. And it's
The word allow actually gives owners more flexibility of their property than less flexibility. Instead of saying
Allow for agriculture and preservation of agricultural heritage.
Allow for.
that frankly gives that person more rights to say, if I want to, I can do it, but I don't have to do it. If we're not careful, we're gonna almost say you have to do it. And so I like allow, with whoever's saying allow.
But then I worry that that's giving permission, like, that's more permission, I don't know,
Good
that's
point.
more of a,
Well, they already have the right.
they already have the right
Yeah.
to farm there, so it's not.
okay.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I'm glad we're exploring it. The whole Provo Agricultural Commission, to me, is a way to support agriculture. It's a way to encourage.
So I'm gonna make
And-
an argument
and-
for allow.
Okay.
So if we say the purpose of these policies are to allow farmers to farm as long as they choose to farm, and then the policies for support of agriculture then define that support a little bit more so it's not a broad spectrum support. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So if you put allow up there,
Okay.
it gives them the opportunities, which I also want to retain animal rights on the west side. But then the policies under support gives the support to the farming commission of the city and not necessarily ties the council then.
I still think that in terms of your broader purpose, that pulling that, if you wanna say, I wanna support farmers, you put it in that number one. You leave the broader purpose up high. I think Phil nails it when he says it should be very broad, and it is. If you wanna specifically support the farmers, then you put that, that we support agriculture and preserve agricultural heritage for as long as farmers choose to farm.
So just pull it out of the purpose.
Pull that part up down. put it down.
I like the way you just edited that, Cliff.
Okay. So let's.
Moving that sentence up, and as long as they want to, adding that to where your cursor is right now, I think is pretty strong.
This is an age.
Whose works for me?
All right. So let's see if we can get a vote on this, because we've got to keep moving through all of these, or we're not going to get through it by the end of the day. So there's a proposal that we move this down here. I'm going to push back on that a little bit. In part, I think that preserving the agricultural heritage is not something that's done only while the farmers choose to farm. I think we need to support the farmers as long as they choose to farm, but if there's ways that we can preserve the agricultural heritage, some of the things that we talked down here, anyways, but that's getting,
Dave,
so,
what if you changed the order and said, first, preserve agricultural heritage, and then second, support agriculture for as long as farmers choose to farm? Would
that helps a lot. I still think that, yeah, it's just one of 7, but it is still a good quarter of all the policies, and I think it should be up in the purpose.
I don't feel like I was invited on the committee about protecting farmers. I feel like that was one of the, not that I don't want to, I thought that was one of the balancing interests. And so to me, it changes your committee purpose. I'm not trying to water down that. I just don't want the other side to say, well, what about us? I think that was the balancing act that we were asked to do. And so that's why I like it down below and not at the top as the ultimate purpose.
So are you saying chop out all of that and just go, purpose of these policies is to guide, develop? So that to me says, oh, we're gonna develop all you guys out there.
Except the number one policy is says completely the detail of saying, and we're protecting it by doing this here.
But going along with LaDon, a lot of these farmers feel like Provo City is pushing them out anyway. And I think having it part of the purpose, I think would reinforce, I mean, there's been a lot of distrust. And I think having it be part of the purpose would help the farmers understand that, hey, we are on your side.
And I hear what you're saying, but it seems to me it's changing what we were originally asked to do midstream. And I'm just thinking of the other citizens who aren't farmers.
I'm not a farmer.
Yeah, but I'm just those.
And I'm
so,
perfectly for that.
I'm not saying I'm against farming. To me, that's just. But I'm not going to lose sleep over that one. But to me, it's overstating the purpose of why your committee was called together in the first place.
I'm
It's
trying to
changing the
remember what
direction.
exactly, because for me, it was planning for the future.
Right.
Which for some.
This is one of the critical elements of it.
Yeah, farming is part of that. But I don't remember exactly what the verbiage was when we invited you.
Could we possibly pull preserve heritage up into the purpose, because that can take many, many different forms?
Okay, so the purposes of these policies are to preserve the heritage of the Southwest area and to guide its development in order to promote smart, sustainable, vibrant community. I'm okay with that. Get some nods. Okay. The purposes of these policies are to preserve the heritage of Southwest Provo.
I like that, because a lot of citizens that aren't farmers are there
Right.
because they like the rural feel.
I
And
like
that
that.
would tell you there that you're trying to preserve the rural feel for those of us that live
Should it say agricultural heritage or rural heritage?
I was just saying heritage, because like that can take many different forms. I know.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, if we say preserve the rural feel, if we use the word rural, rural has, 50 different meanings and it's different to every person. So, let's just be more specific. Because I think the developer or citizen or anybody interpret rural differently.
How about we do this, while, let's put it down here, the while preserving how about respecting?
I like preserving more than respecting.
And what I'm thinking is that if you say preserving in your purpose, then somebody else is gonna say, have the same problem with support, right? And what does that mean? Does that mean that we're not going to allow development out there? And I really hate this.
Yeah, just only use the scroll bar, don't use the scroll wheel.
And I think what you guys are talking about is respecting gives you a little bit different perspective. It recognizes that 100 years from now, you might not have any farmers left. But that's dependent on farmers. While they're there, you're going to respect that they do farm.
Yeah, you got an arrow bar, huh? Yeah, arrows work too.
How does that sentence end? It says just,
I'm not finished yet, I'll respect it. We could just change this to say. I'm getting backspace instead of delete.
So maybe make this singular.
And the purpose
Of these policies is to guide development. Well, it's these policies, there's multiple policies, but one purpose.
right,
purpose of this policy is
To guide development in Southwest Provo. And can we get rid of as it occurs, when it occurs, just to guide the development in order to promote a smart, sustainable, vibrant community that offers a high quality of life for its current and future residents while respecting, I'd just leave it at while respecting the agricultural heritage.
Provo's agricultural heritage, actually, I think it's a deeper
Provo's?
statement, because
Okay.
then it, the idea that all of a sudden you're tying in someone, that we're respecting that this is all of Provo has an agricultural heritage. And I like the way you're honoring the entire agricultural heritage is now just, I like that.
You talked further down about open space and agritourism and things like that.
Okay, do you have two, I think we have two periods there, and
I can clean that up
Okay.
later when I have, because I'll have to get a final product to send out, I'm gonna have to do some massive edits on the side, so we'll
Okay.
just work with this.
but I want it close enough that we can feel comfortable that we vote on it and then
Yeah,
it's
but I'm
just,
not worried about spaces
Okay.
or an extra period, I can clean
Okay.
that up.
all right,
I can't even actually see them in here.
okay. I think it should be these policies, because we have multiple policies, one purpose, multiple policies, but I don't know at what level do we call that, just grammatical and, okay. All right, so now we've got that. Now, policy number 1 has been potentially changed to preserve Provo's agricultural heritage and support agriculture for as long as farmers choose to farm. Does that feel good to farmers that might feel threatened? Is that stated well enough?
It's pretty vague for me. I just still don't understand the word support, and I want to support. I just haven't heard any real plans that I can agree with yet.
Okay, and so all of these are kind of ways to do that, but a lot of it is, creating this commission that's going to work with the council. We had a comment here about identifying obstacles. Mr. Rash is not with us tonight. It's too bad. He was talking about irrigation systems. I'm comfortable that I think this is one of those obstacles that the commission can look at and make recommendations on. So I don't know that it necessarily needs to be in here. I wish it was here. But I think this is the kind of thing that we're asking them to look into. And so I want to say yes, but not necessarily incorporate it into the body of this document. Is that, any concerns with that?
it can be general, they can look at whatever obstacle.
Yes, okay. Beautiful, moving on. C.
Hold on.
Yes.
Are we leaving it or dropping it?
We're saying yes, this is already incorporated into this, so we don't need to change anything because we agree with it.
That's all I'm asking.
Do we know whether our agricultural friends would like an agricultural commission? I'm just trying to think how often people say, gee, I wish there was another commission to guide my life. And I'm not against it in any way.
Yep.
I'm just curious of whether
One of the
that's.
guys that I knew was trying to get the farmers together to have a voice. And so I think as far as an agriculture commission, how I would see it is talking to some of the farmers I've talked to, it would be their avenue to the council of, hey, this is what you're doing to us, please stop doing this, try something else.
And I respect and hear what you're asking for. My question is, your difference is commission coming down. It's the difference of neighbors organizing, going to the council versus an organization the council put together. And I can argue the ramifications of both as I travel the country. But I just want to make sure the neighbors want that.
Part of it is who you get onto the commission. And you want a variety of people. They have right now the guy who's running the farmer's market. They have a BYU professor over farming and agriculture.
And my question purely is I want to make sure that if we do an agricultural commission, that's what neighbors there would want.
So,
And not that this is not, we're here from the government, we're here to help. And
I think they want
what's
to
that?
be heard.
I know that. I completely know that. I just don't know whether,
And I don't know how else they would be heard.
okay, so the commission already exists.
okay.
We have a commission member with us already, and both of you are on the commission. Okay, and so
then how is the policy say approve the creation of it?
because the council hasn't necessarily put our stamp on it.
It's on their agenda for Tuesday.
Gotcha.
So we're basically, this group would be saying, hey, council, we think you should listen to this. We think this commission is going to be a part of shaping the future and the interactions. But excellent question, wonderful question. Okay.
I just have trouble, not trouble, I'm understanding the city can't remove these barriers. Like, the city can only do so much. We're gonna identify obstacles to success of farmers and recommend ways the city can remove these barriers. It's like,
So the commission is going to identify them, and then they're going to recommend to the council how we can remove them. This is not,
but is it the city's responsibility to remove all these barriers? That's what I'm not saying. The barriers might be, I don't know, something totally out of the
I
city's.
see what you're saying, so
city's realm.
take out the city.
I just don't know.
I like that, take out the city,
Say, just
the ways that,
ways to remove
to remove these
them.
barriers, I like
Yes.
that.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Perfect, excellent. And recommend ways to remove them. Well, to remove these barriers, probably better, because we're not trying to remove the non-traditional farmers.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone good there? Okay,
Maybe we change it to obstacles though.
okay,
Well, synonym?
No, I just think when we refer to obstacles, let's just use obstacles.
Okay.
all right. There was a change, because it's,
So we
oh,
can
and
go
it's
back
it's
down.
already, it's not in red, but this was Utah County's Agricultural Protection Program. As was stated, it's actually the state of Utah's, but I think it's administered through the county. I think it's far too much detail, but at the same time, what we're trying to do here is we're not trying to make laws, we're just trying to communicate policies. And so this information, I think, is helpful of that. You know, kind of gives, because the public's going to read this, we don't want them to have to refer to state code necessarily for everything. So a quick description of that. I'm okay with that. Any concerns with? anything here?
I've struggled always with getting too specific, saying that, because I'm afraid that people again use it as a rule and say, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do this. Well, maybe we didn't want to do this, but I like the statement, requested Agro Commission explore tools for agricultural preservation. I think we should just, to me, that's enough. And then let the commission use all those things, rather than actually state them in the policy document.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I kind of agree with that. Our family friend is Tim Crandall, who owns Crandall Farms in Orem. And he said that the whole community thing with the agricultural protection program for the county did not work for him. And so Orem City made something for him as an agriculture protection for his. So, you know, something like that's not always going to be what
Right.
the farmers are going to need.
Now, if we look at this, we're requesting the commission to explore tools, and I think it sounds like we all agree on that. Is there value in saying these tools may include? So it's not inclusive, it's not exclusive. It's just these are some things that this is what we have in mind when we talk about agricultural tools. We're not talking about hoes and shovels. We're talking about these type of things. Is there value in having this, or is it better to strike it?
There is value. Gives anyone reading the document an idea, whether you're on the Agricultural Commission or the public, of what may, keyword may, not shall.
Okay, so I'm on that line of thinking. Can we just do a quick up and down vote and?
Wait, can I say why
Yep,
I added
please.
it?
Yeah, please.
Just because do you feel like the members of the council are aware that this is available?
Well, I think that's the Agricultural Commission's
Commission's
job to
duty,
tell us.
And that's why I don't feel too strongly about this, because we've got some commission members here. You guys are gonna do this anyway. I'm fine with taking it out. I prefer it in, but it's not a big deal
I just
to
felt
me.
like if someone went, oh, what's that? Then they would immediately know where to go.
I think it
It
helps the
doesn't
public
force anyone to
understand.
do it, but it gives them reference so they can understand how it works.
So are we okay with an up and down vote? I mean, is this like a deal breaker for anyone or no? Okay, let's just do a quick straw poll and we'll keep it in or take it out depending on the outcome.
In terms of a policy, it probably doesn't make it into the final document that gets published, the Southwest Area Plan, because you're really talking in this section here, you're saying, look, we want an agricultural commission, and here's the 4 or 5 things we think they should do.
I totally agree with you. This I would see is solely the recommendations to the council, and this would not end up in the Southwest Area Plan. I agree. Okay, are we good with the vote? Anyone have heartburn over just a quick vote on where we feel on this? Okay, if you want to keep it in, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you would prefer to take it out, raise your hand. 1, 2.
I
don't care.
It's not that big a deal.
Okay, let's leave it in for now. Again, this is informational. Okay, good. Whew. Let's see how quickly we can do this. All right. Increase instead of encourage. I'm okay with that. Any heartburn over that?
How about improve?
Improve the productivity of agricultural land. I mean, the reason I put this in is if there's land that's getting certain benefits like deferred tax things and things like that, I want to see it in production. I prefer to see it in production than just have it fallow. So that's where this came from. Encourage, increase. What was the other one you just suggested?
Improve.
Improve. Any preferences on those 3 words?
Could that not come at odds with your agribusiness later on? I mean, you take a corn maze, probably not the highest agricultural use for the land. That's pretty effective, but it gets the heritage, et cetera. So
yeah,
starting putting a measurement around productivity of agricultural land to me is.
Productivity might be, you might say improving rather than increasing. You might be actually improving the quality, not necessarily the amount.
I would say a corn maze is a productive use of that land.
But I guess I'm intrigued by the idea of whether I'm going back to your idea of the farm Wheeler farm concept. Yep. Not productive agricultural land per se, but it creates this heritage you're trying to protect. It's giving people. So I just that's at odds with that part of your vision, but I get the concept.
Okay, and I appreciate that it may not be crystal clear, but I actually think Wheeler Farm is an example of a productive use, even though it's not productive.
So productive use of the agricultural land to me is different than productivity of agricultural land, and so that's why I'm.
Okay. To increase the productive use.
I read that and I think we're trying to increase the bushels per acre.
Yeah, and that's what I'm. And I'm not sure that's what you were asking for, nor I'm not sure that's what many of the farmers were saying. Please help me get more yield out of my crops. So
improve the productive use. What's the best way to get what I was trying to say and not cause confusion?
Don't they have to show productivity in order to maintain the greenbelt status?
I believe so.
So is it redundant?
No, but so you just said improve the productive use, which makes it broader.
Okay. Are we okay with that? Improve the productive use of agricultural land?
I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into all this, honestly.
Thanks.
I don't even think we need that in there, honestly.
Okay.
That will be under the purview of the Agricultural Commission, and that's.
I like that.
It does. I wouldn't spend too much time on it because you're still supporting agriculture here.
And that's the Agricultural Commission's.
I do think that somebody might come back to you and say, okay, with the Agricultural Commission, we need water. So we're now going to build water pipelines to provide water for
They can suggest whatever they want.
Yeah,
I know
if that was an obstacle and they want to suggest it, maybe they
Yeah.
suggest it, but maybe the council says, that's not the best use of our public money.
But again, I think that's that agricultural commission's not our purview for those things, so we can take
But-
out.
But
is
I
this
think,
encouraging the council to work with the.
yeah, and it's
What's
to tell the
already
commission
stated
like,
up there,
hey, this is something that matters to us. We don't want to see fallow land out there. We would like to see, if we're supporting it, we want to see something come out of it.
But I kind of think, like what Gary said, when you're requesting that the council approve the commission, you're saying the same thing.
I think that we're giving them like some go-dos.
Okay.
These are the things that we would like to see out. And if I'm in the minority, that's fine. We can take it out. I just there is a thought behind it. I don't think it's redundant with anything else. But that's fine if we want to take it out.
As a commission member, I would like it there.
Okay.
Just like you say, because they can approve it and ignore them.
I'm more comfortable, the way it's been edited now, I'm far
Okay.
more comfortable with.
Encourage the Provo Agricultural Commission to improve the productive use of agricultural land.
Yep.
Okay. All right. E, support development supported, that's kind of redundant, support development supported agriculture and agritourism to help preserve agricultural heritage.
Don't you have to put a qualifier on that? Because you're not gonna support every agribusiness, every whatever. So
True.
it seems to me it has to be a support appropriate or appropriate,
Okay.
to me there has to be some sort of qualifier on that one, otherwise you're writing yourself into a corner.
It's kind of a faux pas stylistically,
Yeah.
but we could just change this to encourage. We'll have 3 points in a row that's encourage, but would you feel better with encourage development supported agriculture? Did everyone get a chance to read those definitions? No, those were just pulled from Wikipedia. It's at the bottom of the page, the document, if you want.
This is one more point that we're assigning to the agricultural committee, correct?
Not necessarily, it's not in here, but imagine the agriculture committee can see that this is one of the policies and.
And I think that's also something for community development to see.
Okay.
Because I think that if we have that in there, say we want what's the word? Agritourism. Let's see if we can fit something into the vision there. So I think that's a good spot for it.
The reason I like the qualifier of appropriate is the idea that if the folks down in the Cedar City area want to bring the hog farm up here, that's probably not what most of the neighbors want next to their house.
We already passed the law.
We have, what's that?
Yeah, we-
But that's what I'm just saying, appropriate, or.
Okay.
I like that
I-
because of our past
We can handle
experience.
the definitions with a footnote.
Okay, that's fine. Any objections to appropriate? We had this discussion on Vision 2050 a while back about appropriate and cost effective, but I'm fine putting appropriate in there. I think the council's hope that we're wise enough that we can just, decide what's appropriate or not, but I'm fine with putting appropriate. Yeah, okay.
I
Let's
think like
put appropriate.
definition, council's going to determine whether it's appropriate, whether you say it or not.
Right. I don't think it's needed, but I'm fine with it. Yes, sir.
I am a farmer, and some of the things that you ought to consider, suppose a man already has a hog farm.
Yes.
Can you run him out? Probably not, but there's not very many hogs down there in that farm. But there's a few beef cows still. Suppose a man's baling hay, you like to bale hay with the dew on it, so you don't lose all the leaves. Suppose a man's out baling hay. The neighbors have moved in right next to the farm. They are the newcomers. He's been there for years and years. Who is the city going to support in this case?
And
What about the dust and some of the other
That's why at
problems?
the very beginning I asked that when all of this gets put into the city code, that the same thing we hide. People who move in sign a document saying, we understand we are moving into an agricultural area with all the sights, sounds, smells, and activities there.
So that's where H.
And I don't, well, That's where he's saying.
That is where it got changed a little bit. I thought it was a little more explicit before, but this got changed to identify and employ ways to protect agricultural operations from residential encroachment. It's not my favorite wording, but that's the exact issue that we're trying to address there. And I would hope that comes to the form, the implementation of this ends up being something like a form that people sign. I understand I'm moving in next to a farm. I understand the city will not consider my complaints about operational problems or something like that, whatever that is. We would look to Lehigh or other places that are already doing that.
From what Tim Crandall told me, he said that's what the agricultural protection does.
Yeah.
If he has to burn on his fields or do whatever, the city can't have a beef with that because it is protected. Certain farming rights are protected.
Okay, and so that's what we're asking in here. Okay, we are going to
Just a second.
Okay.
You have a comment there from Terry Herbert, and that is in the wrong place. That comment really should go way down on item.
Where's Mr. Herbert?
He's fell. He's.
Oh no. Okay, because I didn't understand that. Okay, so if that goes somewhere else, let's address that later on.
Right.
Let's hop up here to F. Any concerns with F?
My only comment is what would we like the state legislators to give up?
Okay, and we would encourage them to consider it, and then they can weigh that out.
It seems a strange place in a plan to put. I understand that as a strategy for the city to do that. It just seems a strange thing to put that in your West Side plan for.
That's a recommendation for the
committee.
For the council.
Commission.
To me, this is a recommendation from us to the council. We're recommending, we as a body, if we were to approve this, we as a body would be saying to the Provo City Council, we think that you should encourage our state.
But is this a policy statement? I don't know.
It's a recommended policy.
Let me suggest this.
Okay.
What you've got here is, the intent of this committee was to provide recommendations to council so that community development could work on and move forward on the West Side plan. Something like that, if you want it as a separate thing, we probably should just take it, put it down and say, okay, here's the recommendations we have, but we also want council separately to support these things. And I think you could do that as a separate, pull that down and put it somewhere else. And in fact, a lot of the stuff in the agricultural commission part, you could simply say, we support, promote the agricultural commission to do like B, C, D, E, and G or F and all that really are sub of A.
Yes, I agree. I think most of this, not all of it, but most of this actually won't get into the master plan. But I think it's part of the overall thing. So
can I suggest one other thing then?
Okay.
Don't worry about that format. If as a policy statement you like the idea, let's go ahead and just approve it, and then you're gonna vet this next at the stakeholders.
Yep.
And then when it comes back, you'll have one last chance to make some changes, then you'll send those recommendations to the council.
Right.
So I would just leave it in there, let it be vetted by the stakeholders, and then on the 28th, when you meet again, decide where you wanna put it.
Okay, any concern with that? Any objections? Okay, we just hit the halfway point, so just FYI. Okay.
First item.
G, explore the creation of a Provo City Farmland Trust Fund, with the idea being that it's funded by private citizens and can be used to match as a local match for state and federal programs. Any concerns with that? Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So we're looking at creating a fund to match other programs?
Yeah, the idea would we create a fund that private citizens could donate to that could be a match for programs, state and federal programs.
I just wondered if that's totally necessary. Is that kind of the role that Provo City wants to take?
It may be, it may not be, and that's why we would just be, we're encouraging them to explore. We're not saying do it, we're just saying explore.
Who are you encouraging to explore?
This would be to the city council.
So that you want the council to do this? I'd just soon have the commission do this.
And the commission has $20,000 they want to put to that fund.
Okay. I'm fine with putting this as a,
How about you just take it out, just take it out entirely and just let it be a tool that they come up with.
That's what I like.
You've got
It's a
up your
tool, it's
tools.
not a policy.
concerns?
I think it might have appeared earlier as a trust. Right there, community land trust.
That's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, it's a
Trust is where
different
the city
tool,
would
but-
create essentially a agricultural,
Yeah, it's not a trust fund.
no.
I think that a lot of these are tools rather than a policy. I would just assume let the commissions deal with it, recommend tools. The policy is that we're preserving the agricultural heritage and land. But the tool is all these things that we're doing.
G ought to go to the agricultural commission as just something they can look at.
Okay, what if we clip this? Oh, and you're already doing it, and stick it up there. I just don't want anyone in the public looking at that and saying, wait, are we saying that the city's gonna put taxpayer money into a fund? So I almost would like to see something that talks about to be funded by private citizens or something, just to make it super clear that we're not recommending to the council to put taxpayer money into it.
So you are leaving it in? Let's see.
So we're making a part of C, a tool that we're asking the commission to look at.
So, but you're not leaving in the explanation. Can you put that as like a footnote or?
I can clean it up. I can clean it up into better than.
Okay, so we want to communicate it well enough. Okay,
But I don't wanna do it right here, because this is cumbersome.
okay. So onto H, identify and employ ways to protect agricultural operations from residential encroachment. The idea is people move in with the expectation that it's pastoral land and there's no sights or smells or noises, sounds of a farm, and that can cause conflict. And then you got a lot of people that are out. Anyway, so the idea is we want to avoid that and avoid pushing out farmers because of that dynamic. Is there a better way to say it? Are we okay with that?
I have a comment.
Yeah, please.
I like the idea, but I think we just have the wrong wording, because we're not necessarily trying to protect agriculture from residential encroachment. We're trying to protect agriculture from people complaining about seemingly negative effects of agriculture, right?
Yes.
So encroachment is probably the wrong word. What would be a better word for that?
Well, I think it is encroachment.
This one actually came from our planning department.
All right. Yeah, so can you say that loud enough that make sure that Ms. Ellsworth can hear that?
Sorry, Don, I cut you off. This item was actually worded this way by planning and development, by Bill Pepperoni.
Just kind of referring back to what you were showing us with, you know, if someone's gonna build a, whatever, are they gonna pressure their farmer next door out, you know, you really need to sell because you're gonna wreck our cul-de-sac or whatever.
Yeah. And the other thing that I wasn't a big fan of the wording of this. I almost kind of like, I mean, I see why it was moved from what it was before, but I think before it was more explicit. I also think we want to protect residents, future residents, from expectations that it's not gonna be like living next to a farm, and so they have the right expectations of what living next to a farm is.
So are we really saying? I'm hearing. So we're saying we want if the farmer wants to build a house over here, as long as they realize it's going to still be a farm. So are we saying identify and employ ways to protect agricultural operations from the impact of residential growth, or I mean, are we trying to keep? We're trying to keep a broad barrier. As I read this, it's like we're trying to keep this broad swath away. Are we trying to keep a broad geographical boundary, or are we trying to
I like impact.
So identify and employ ways to protect agricultural operations from the impact of residential encroachment.
Recognizing it's going to happen, but we need to deal with the impact.
I'm going back to your point of making sure that the idea that I want to be there when you're cutting the hay at the mist. That sounds actually something very cool. But that to me, it's like we're trying to protect you from that happening.
Let me add a little bit here. There are a lot of farmers down there that are getting really old. And they're not anxious to keep going. And we have lost a lot of water down there. I've talked to some of the guys that's down there farming. They didn't get anything last season to speak of on their farms. It was too dry. There was wonderment if that road that went through on the south has kept the water from the lake from coming back north on natural veins, and there's wonderment about all of the drains that's draining the storm drains and the sewers that are all bedded. We've lost a lot of water, and these guys are getting old, and so in all that we're talking about here, in the vision of what we want in southwest Provo, and this is something that they have not had. There have been some old farmers that would have liked to have developed 10 years ago, and they were not allowed to by Provo City. They were not allowed to. And yet when Provo City wanted a road, they used eminent domain to get that road, and they didn't pay a very good price, because some of the farmers had been offered more than that, substantially more, by development. Well, there's some of these guys are getting old. I'm close to 70, and I'm still trying to make a living farming, but there's not a lot of money in it. I've moved to a bigger farm to try to make it, because I can't make it on 5 acres or 10 acres in Provo.
You out of here?
And so in the vision of all we're talking about, they've got to have a vision that now Provo City, as I've talked to Dave Graves, I've been talking to all you people on the commission because I didn't know you, but there's hopefully for a vision to develop, to allow development now, so that if the old farmers want to retire and they want to quit, they can get a little bit of money to quit.
All right, can you state your name or just for the audio record one more time?
Mac Carter.
Okay, Matt Carter. All right.
Phenomenal point he brings up, by the way, just phenomenal.
Yes, thank you. How about identify employee ways to protect agricultural operations from complaints of residences and mitigate conflict? Because
You can't stop complaints, so I think trying to say you can stop complaints is
but we can
almost-
protect them from those complaints.
That's why I think the word impact covers that, I think.
Okay. The only thing that I'd like to be added here is, again, to protect potential new homeowners from believing they're going to get something and coming in and being very unhappy because they're next to. And I think I wish Beth was here.
Shannon.
Okay, speak. Say that again.
Oh, I just wanted to say something.
Okay, go for
I'm
it.
interrupting everyone all the time, but I like where we're headed with this, but I wouldn't add the phrase identify ways. Because in a plan, you should have already identified those ways. Otherwise, you're making a plan for a plan. So if we can scratch that phrase identify ways, then it will make it a stronger policy.
So just protect agricultural operations from the impact of residential encroachment and mitigate residential
conflicts,
residential agricultural conflicts.
I'd like to make another comment right here.
The one problem is that we're now 2/3 of the way through our meeting and we're still on item 1. So we're gonna really try to streamline this, but talk to me afterwards.
I'll make it quick.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Van Buren and I talked last week, and we had some people move in and want to complain. And down where I'm at, there were some neighborhoods, the people moved in because they liked the farm area, they liked the smell of a little bit of corn silage, and they were good neighbors.
Great.
Right along the time I was farming.
And that's what we want. We want people to understand that that's what they're going to experience if they buy. And so we don't want people buying before before realizing that. Yes.
Out in Saratoga Springs, they put a note on the plat.
Yeah. That's what we're talking about, and that's all we're trying to get at with that thing is we're looking for something like that. Okay, F. This was a recommendation. Prohibit use of eminent domain on agricultural lands.
I don't know how, as much as I like farming, I don't know how that class should be protected different than any other class of citizens in our community.
For council, I don't think you.
I don't.
I would agree with that.
I just don't know how you that create a protected class.
In the history of Southwest Provo, how many projects has eminent domain been used on? There's only one that I can think of, the broader Lakeview Parkway, and that was thrown out 12 years ago when the council first started talking about that. Maybe 8 years ago.
You even have a flood issue like '83, where all the property owners, all the agriculture owners wanted a protection of a dike except one that would prohibit that. And so I think you're very dangerous language.
I don't think, and I don't know of any plans to use this anymore. And so I think the council already doesn't want to use that.
Council will never.
I don't think so.
Policy statement.
I understand where it's coming from.
It's handcuffing future councils, and we
right.
can't do that.
It's problematic.
So what will help to restrict that when a developer comes in and says, I really need to put a road right through there?
I think state law covers that in many ways. There are very strong restrictions on how you use it, and there are going to be times that you may need to use it, and you do not want to tie the hands of the future council. You might need it to put a school out there. You know what I mean? So there are protections. They don't take it lightly. The use of eminent domain. In fact, I can tell you, having watched them with this last round of eminent domain, they agonized. Council agonized over it. You may not have seen very much of it publicly, but they agonized about it privately because it is a hard thing. They recognize that it's the last option for them to use. They would much prefer to go the route of negotiation and settlement rather than eminent domain, but it is the last tool in the toolkit if we need to actually get something done for a proper public purpose.
Thank you. Are we okay moving on with just scratching this? Okay, H. This is, I think, something that Dave Connect has been working with Don Jarvis and already has. I see identify agricultural land owners, have the properties listed on development maps to better avoid encroachment onto agricultural lands. I guess help me understand what's the purpose there. I'm not seeing.
I guess I just felt like where the farmers that are angry and feel like they're not being listened to, I feel like it would give them an identity or to feel like specifically their wants and needs are being.
Okay. Can we? I mean, I think that's already being produced, and I think if we can put that under the charge of the commission, I don't know if it's necessarily like a policy that we would recommend to the council.
It doesn't hurt. They're already working on some maps with this anyway. I don't think it harms you to have it as a statement. And I might add that in some ways it may actually be detrimental to them because it will identify for anybody looking at the map where the farms are, and who the owners are and such and such. So it's kind of the argument some of the gun control advocates say is that if you have to identify who's got a gun, now the criminals know who's got a gun.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I'd rather it out, but I'm fine with it being in. Can I get thumbs up if you want it in, thumbs down if you don't care? Thumbs up, thumbs up. All right, we'll leave it in.
If it keeps the Don happy, I'm happy.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Woo! Done with number one. Number two, preserve and create quality open space. Update the master plan. Sorry, Parks and Rec master plan.
When we say update the Parks Recreation master plan, what are we really telling them to do? I mean, go through a whole new master plan update?
This is language that came from community development. I think what they're saying is we now have a clear picture of what we're going to do out there. So let's make any tweaks that we need to update the parks plan for this area. It was That's where it came from.
You could actually even change that instead of update, because I think what Kay's pointing to is that you're telling them to update it. You could just say
I
require.
mean, does that bring in the consultants and spend $150,000 and go through all the surveys and do all that all over again, or is that?
Why don't you just say require?
Require the Parks and Rec master plan to provide developed parks?
That makes less
Yeah.
sense to me.
Yeah.
Would you just want something where you're saying, include this area, like factor that into that master plan if it hadn't
That's
before?
why I like, update's fine for me. It's not a commandment, it's a.
I just want clarification on what we're asking.
How about in this area? Update the Parks and Recreation master plan to provide developed parks and open space in this area that satisfy a range. So we're not doing a comprehensive update, we're just saying this thing, we just need to consider the new
I
changes.
feel a little redundant here. This is we're talking about input to a plan that we're telling someone else, and it seems like our plan is that we want to have developed parks, open space, and satisfied. I'm not sure you need the who and how in this case.
Okay.
It's like
Yeah,
just
you want
like
to provide the developed parks.
we're just saying in our plan that we've all agreed upon is we want some developed parks and open space.
And Bill, I would agree with you. The only reason I would say you want to include the master plan is that you can say provide all you want. If it doesn't show up in the
Great,
Parks and Rec
I'm
master
fine with
plan,
that,
it's
yeah.
not going to
So-
be there.
Then you know better than I do on that one. So
No, and I'm just saying because that's always an issue. If it doesn't show up in the master plan, Parks isn't going to follow it.
I'm in part leaning on Bill Pepperone's expertise on this.
Great.
You know, we're suggesting that this gets done. Preserve and develop natural amenities for sustained enjoyment of the community. Examples include Provo River and its banks, Provo River Delta, Utah Lake shoreline, and wetlands. Provide parks of different scope. Examples include neighborhood parks, school, community school gardens, a regional sports park, a farm-themed park like Wheeler Farm, and the Provo Beach concept. And again, these are examples of things that might fit, that provide parks of different scope. Okay. D, encourage agritourism as a means to provide.
You've actually got this. I think you can take out this C below. I don't know what's happened. My thing just.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so well, yeah, because we've already defined it.
I had to chuckle a little as we said encourage this as we sent a road through the.
There's some irony there. I agree. There's some irony there. That was very unfortunate. And to me, that's what encourage means. Sometimes it's not every single thing we do will do this. It's just on the balance. This is something that we're trying to encourage, but it doesn't trump everything else. To provide agriculturally themed open space. I kind of like the preserving agricultural heritage, but I'm not. It's not that big of a deal to me.
One thing that, as I go back into that, we talked about open space. Are we doing trails? We did. I don't see where we're talking. I still think that there's an important, policy towards a trail plan.
Shannon mentioned that in her comments that she submitted. I don't know if that made it onto this version.
Oh wow! Because I don't remember seeing that from Shannon. Okay.
I think it can be part of the open space and just throw the word trails in somewhere for me.
Okay. How about in here?
B with the.
Yeah.
Are they thinking equestrian trails as well?
Let it.
I don't think you want to specify if the market suggests that equestrian trails would fit. I think they'll include them in the master plan. If they don't think there's enough demand, I mean, they're not going to build it for 3 horses, but if there were 3,000 horses, they would do it, right? Or 300 horses maybe, but I don't really want to require them to do it. You're giving them options here.
I just like having it in there.
Okay. No, thank you. E. There was some question on what exactly does that mean, and quite honestly, I didn't know exactly what it meant, but it was something.
Really what you're encouraging is open space as an integral part of neighborhood design. In other words, it goes back to one of the concepts you were promoting before was this idea that there should be some open space feel to some of the neighborhoods rather than just everything cramped in together.
Okay,
Your pocket neighborhood thing.
and Bill, yeah, right. And Bill Pepperoni seemed to feel like that was maybe it would have been good to have him here to speak for himself rather than me explain what I understood him to say. But when I kind of asked, it seemed like, no, this is a good thing. I think his comment was something along the lines of, well, community development knows what it means. So
Let me say one more quick one here.
okay,
As soon as you cross that road, you could have some real nice open space. You could put some real nice trails in there. If you had some parking across that new road you put across there, you've got bird watching. We used to go down there, bird watching and ice skating, you name it. We did it down there. It's beautiful country. That's just across the road.
agreed. And I think we do have parking lots on that other side with that trail. And we're trying to develop that as an amenity for the residents. Okay, down with 2. Now 3. Encourage sustainable residential patterns. Some of these are very specific. Some of these are broad. Let's.
Let me suggest this.
Yeah.
Has everybody on the committee had a chance to see these on Open City Hall?
Yes.
My suggestion is if somebody hasn't commented on them, unless somebody feels strongly, just move on to the ones where there's comments or changes. Because I'm assuming that if you haven't commented, you're okay with it.
Okay. So we have a suggestion to change fit in with and enhance to just should enhance. I'm okay with that. Any concerns? Okay, let's
So is
adopt that.
Beth proposing a change?
Yeah, that's a broader one, so let's.
So we're sticking with barriers. I just struggle with barriers. And
Okay.
It seems like.
It's like you're talking about walls almost.
So
Isn't this housing type should be integrated within the neighborhoods?
I think what he's talking about though is where like you have a gated community. This isn't a fence. This is a gated community. This is having one neighbor.
Literally is walls then, Bill.
I guess that's my point is
This is like up at Woodside, where you have a fairly like the mayor's neighborhood where it's fairly wealthy.
Like the Vintages
and
or
then
the
there's
Cotton.
townhomes just north, and they blocked off the road so you can. The emergency vehicles can get through, but nobody else can unless you're walking.
My point is, it made me think that you couldn't have a wall in the back of your yard to keep the kids in. If you had a swimming pool, you couldn't do that.
No, you can.
So that's why the word barrier there made that's what I was reading into.
Yeah.
No, that's not. They're talking.
And I did craft an illustration, and I suggested maybe community development could do a much better job before it goes out to the public. But trying to illustrate what was meant by that. Okay, E. We'll talk about this, and then we'll
Can
jump
you
up.
stop with D for 1 second? It
Yep.
says detached and attached single-family homes should be. Are we putting detached and attached to the same? That sounds like we're kind of putting them at the same level, and maybe that doesn't matter.
No, that's a good point. I think the idea is this would be single family detached.
Well, it's
Predominant.
both, right? You could have a series of duplexes or row homes, townhomes if you wanted to, but they're saying the predominant type, and as long as they augment and not detract from the single family feel. Like if you're gonna have multiple use homes, at least no matter how, they should feel like they fit in the neighborhood and not distract from it.
So the proposal, well, from what I'm hearing, is to take out and attached from this. So
We're already
it's-
saying that. You're saying that below. Should not from a single family feel.
Yeah, but detached is a single family.
I
You
just
take out attached. You're not allowed.
feedback from the
attached.
neighborhood. I don't think attached housing is at the same.
Yeah. And I think that's a good suggestion. I'm okay with that. Concerns by anyone? So it's going to be detached single family homes should be the predominant housing type.
So you wouldn't allow any
No.
attached at all?
No, that's not what this
Predominant.
is saying. It's saying that detached single family homes is the predominant housing type, and the use of other types, which could be attached, potentially, and this is where we'll get into Beth's comment, potentially even multifamily, but the use of those types should augment and not detract from the single family feel of the area.
I think you're good.
Or, Okay. All right, E was flagged by Mr. Rash and others. Concentrations of housing targeting a particular age demographic and concentrations of a single housing type should be discouraged. Again, that doesn't say prohibited, it's discouraged. But the idea is, we would encourage mixing, so we don't have like, okay, this is the student section of Southwest Provo, and this is the retirement community of Southwest Provo, but we're encouraging those uses to be mixed in together, and so and avoiding the concentrations. That's what's saying.
This language was a rewrite from Bill Pepperoni, put that in there, and the previous language was kind of much more exclusionary. It was you didn't want student housing blocks. You didn't want to have neighborhoods that were, and I don't mean small neighborhoods. I mean large neighborhoods that were all like senior housing, like concentrations of it. It was have some mixture with it.
Yeah.
That's pretty vague to me. If I have a community that wants to have a senior housing, or if we want to put in a care facility,
You can have that. What you don't want to have. Remember his super blocks? You
Yeah.
don't want to have a super block filled with one type
Okay.
of housing. Is what they're trying to avoid.
and I get that, I understand that,
It's a little bit of planner speak to it.
and yeah. I just don't want anybody to say, no, we can't put a care facility, a senior area in that area.
Yeah, right. My vision, and kind of what I was trying to get at this is that every neighborhood's going to have one of those. Because a small one that's going to, for the people, for everyone, but that way, instead of having it concentrated in one place in the city or 3 places in the city, it's out in more than just that.
Can I tell you, this is actually not his language. His language was a mix of housing types within each neighborhood or in close proximity is encouraged for E. That's what Bill Pepperoni had.
I kind of like encouraging rather than discouraging. I like the words encouraging rather than discouraging.
So encourage a mix of housing types within each neighborhood or in close proximity.
No, I agree. I tried to figure out how to word this with encourage, but still get the point across.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so broad that it's like, okay, because I think we've already talked about mix of housing types up there. Neighborhoods are quite large. And I was hoping for something a little finer grain.
You can leave it that you can leave it in there. It's your draft policy.
It's the committees at this point.
That's what I meant. The committees.
Yeah. Thoughts?
What about encouraging mix of housing uses within each neighborhood? That way it's including different, maybe help with language, but something that's, because housing types to me says the same point as before with townhouses and whatever. So I think we're trying to get on usage, not on actual types of
Housing uses.
So what about encourage a mix of, or encourage housing types that target a mix of demographics? No.
I kind of like it leaving age demographic, particular age demographic and concentration, just because it explains it to me, what you're talking about in the mix.
So how about this? A mixture of housing targeting.
You know what? You may be right. E and A are very similar.
Yeah. If you're using the word type. But
yeah.
I think our intention is to usage and what demographics are going to be there, not the actual types of housing.
Your challenge on the target of age demographic is at one point in a neighborhood that's a very low income neighborhood, or it's a young starter home neighborhood, and frankly, if we all get older and 30 years later, it's an old person's neighborhood. So it really is a challenging definition and design. And I think I understand the concept. I think it's really problematic in how you actually really, I enforce that. You could say, okay, we're not going to have only senior 55 plus neighborhood. I get that one, but beyond that, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
You can't restrict it by marriage or age, or you can't do that.
Right. But if someone were to come in and say, you know, I want to build this whole thing, you know, and it's obvious that it's all targeted to one age group, you know, students or nursing, we could point to this and say, well, that's actually discouraged. What the council's looking for is maybe a mixture of some of these things. Again, it doesn't say.
You're already saying that above here that you're trying to accommodate various stages of life.
Yeah,
So you've already said that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
my
it says we're gonna
suggestion is
establish ordinances.
my suggestion is delete it.
Okay. Any complaints if we delete
You say
it?
delete.
Okay.
Let me, before you do, I just went back, I found the document that Bill had sent, because I gave it to you and you edited it a little bit, but up here where it talks about update the parks and master plan, he said utilize. So it doesn't tell, it doesn't direct you to do it, you just use that as a tool. You okay with that?
And they are already required to update it every
Okay.
5 years.
Well, didn't they want to expand the softball fields? Because then the softball fields are usable, so they were considering maybe relocating printers. So would you have to update it if that was the case?
We don't have to update that's, I don't think you have to update the whole general plan for that. You just have to,
Update the neighborhood plan for that?
I don't even know if it's that's a very specific thing. So I don't even know if the plans say you have to have a park here. We don't want to necessarily do that.
Well, with food printers, it's that money that they use to build it, so it has to be used for those public funds, remember?
Yes, yeah.
And so if they relocate it, they have to relocate, my understanding is they have to relocate the whole
Okay.
entire thing. And what they have right now, the softball field is unusable because those foul ball, or those home run balls or foul balls go out in the neighbor's yard.
So is that gonna affect what we're writing here?
That's what I'm asking, is it gonna?
I think changing it from update to utilize, I don't think it's gonna.
No, it's
affect that.
saying you use it as a tool, you're not telling them to update it.
Okay.
They'll update it periodically as they need to, but they're saying as a policy tool,
So they'll figure it
use
out.
that document. to
that's-
do it.
Right. Okay, any concerns about changing it from update to utilize? Okay, done. Do we feel like we've properly addressed Beth's concern here? Particularly by changing this from attached and detached to detached single-family homes?
Yeah, I would say that Beth would say to you, she's just always going to be opposed to anything more than single-family dwellings. That whether you use attached or detached, you're stating the same thing. Planning had detached and attached because it allowed you to have 2 and 3 units as a building rather than just single-family homes. But if you take the attached out, you're saying, okay, we want single-family homes as predominant, not 1, 2, and 3 unit homes.
We've talked, particularly with commercial, there may be areas closer to the airport, right, or by some commercial areas that it might make sense to have some townhome buffers. Would someone say, well, that buffer there is making it so you don't have a detached predominant?
I think the thing is in the west side, the homes are smaller and you need move-up homes. And I
Right.
think that's most of the feedback that I'm hearing anyway. You want bigger homes, not something that's smaller. Or something that's gonna compete with my house, it's about 2,000 square feet. You want something that families can move up in and stay on the west side.
Right, I would definitely agree that is a big need, but I don't think that's the only need. And then, so I wouldn't want to see that all land out there that's not developed become
Right.
that. It's a component that needs to be there. Probably one of the biggest component that needs to be there. But I'm just second guessing, there may be areas local areas that maybe the attached single-family home should be the predominant because it's up against, say, commercial.
If you leave detached out, if you leave the word and attached out,
Okay.
then your stakeholders, when they review it in a couple of weeks, will not have that in their minds as a possibility. They'll just think single family and perhaps multifamily. They may not think of 1 and 2 and 3 unit homes, whether or not that's acceptable.
Okay, so are you suggesting we put it back in, or are you suggesting we keep it out?
I'm just saying, I don't care one way or the other with it. I'm just saying that it is something that they may not think of. Now, you've taken it out partly because Beth feels strongly about it and commented on it. The question is, do the rest of you on the committee feel strongly about it or not?
I wonder, since it has language about augmenting and not detracting from the single family feel, I wonder if that kind of makes provision for those types of buffer areas where that would be appropriate. They can still do that, but so it doesn't preclude that as an option, but it's not, it kind of meets both of those needs.
Anyone have heartburn with the way it's written now? Okay, we'll move on. 4, commercial, there were no comments on this? Everyone go with that?
Interesting terminology, and I hit this earlier as watching through it. Everywhere else we have this acceptance, we want this, we want that. When it comes to commercial, we're just saying this passive, we'll allow it. Yet I heard from some of the earlier meetings this desire for a grocery store or this desire for whatever. So to me, this whole plan proposal that just hit me as we're looking through this is that we're really missing out the success and viability of commercial.
Do you want to enable it?
And that was my point, and I'm just saying, our first couple meetings all seem to dominate around grocery store. And if I had a store down on Center Street, or even a business, I'd want to protect it. So to me, we are kind of saying, don't put that here, but I was hearing the opposite from the earlier meetings, and so I'm a little confused.
Okay, so what would you propose? Should?
I would say the first word allow should be replaced with enable.
Oh, up here, okay.
Yeah.
I think if you enable it, and if you allow it, it's like, okay, so we'll allow it. But if you enable it, say, you know what, when those opportunities come, we're gonna actively work to make it happen, or to allow it to happen, to enable it to happen.
If we want to be able to afford those parks over there, I want some stores that
So
the
maybe-
neighbors want to go to, and so that's supportive of the lifestyle environment. I'm not saying we're going to build a mall over there, but I'm just trying to think of some of those small businesses along there. I want to be careful that we're not the same way. I don't want to force a farmer out of business.
We're
I don't want to
supporting,
force it.
I agree, we're supporting agriculture. Why can't we support appropriate commercial?
Okay, do we want support appropriate, or we would probably take out the.
And we've already before
Is
said
that possible?
it's restricted areas. It's this area, this area, this area. And I'm seeing some heads over here thinking that I'm speaking blasphemy and asking for. I just thought I just heard so many people saying they wanted
They do, but it's gotta be in an appropriate place.
I'm-
If it's
I'm-
behind my house.
That's
I'm
why
just-
it's
I'm-
an appropriate
I'm-
location.
everything ought to be in an
Think about
appropriate place.
Some of the unbuilt corridors right now, when you've got some corridors that are gonna go down to the West Side Connector on the south end. When some of those are this gentleman, I think, would agree that some of those are gonna develop. When those develop, those undeveloped areas become great spots to have multi-use and some more commercial and all done without encroaching on existing neighborhoods. That you're creating a new neighborhood with a commercial activity.
So you don't have to drive to the other side of town to go to the dentist or the.
But what I'm saying is if it's like over in my area, it's too far away.
And I don't know where that is, so I'm just. But
By the freeway out of.
I just remember when we did our little maps, we all had commercial little pockets in there.
Yeah.
I think we all did. And I just worry that we're not acting like we're supporting that.
Well, accommodate.
Well, that's the same as allow to be done.
What about promote appropriate commercial amenities?
I like appropriate better.
Promote appropriate, is that a good balance? Because we're active,
That's a good one.
but we need to make sure that these things are appropriate.
And my point always is as the folks who are working with, let's just say that you happen to be working with a grocery store chain. Do we want to encourage a grocery store on your side, or do we want to just, if it happens and they force it? And I'm confused by.
Can we take out development of?
Yeah. I'm not just saying a mall, I'm not saying a mall, I'm not saying the big warehouses, I'm not saying any of
Sorry.
that. But if you had, like, I live up in I live in
What
I
was
live in
there?
Edgemont near her, and that little strip that we have
It was
for,
appropriate locations.
Okay.
for that Edgemont, for the grocery days market, our neighborhood loves it.
I think this works better, take out the first appropriate, leave the second one in.
But what I'm
Because
saying,
locations matter to these neighborhoods.
yes, it does, but that's what I'm saying, the north side's not gonna come clear down to my end to shop.
So it's gotta be
They're gonna
appropriate
go
for your
straight to
neighborhood,
a-
no, it's gotta be appropriate for your neighborhood,
It's gotta be
totally,
appropriate for the west
of
side.
course, it has to be economically viable, it has to be
Probably on
appropriate.
Center Street would be a better,
Yeah, and I think that's why inappropriate locations make sense, so.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
We're going the opposite way.
6:30.
All right, we're not looking at the time anymore. We're getting through this. Okay, create a robust transportation network. This was revised many, many times, and it looks like
To it,
I've just got the same two questions on update. Are we asking them to update those plans?
utilize,
Or are we just gonna say utilize transportation management plan?
sure.
utilize.
Okay. 6, require proper integration and sequencing of development. There was some question on what does A mean. Looking at A and B, I think we can just delete A.
Seems redundant.
And some of this language came.
Though you may only develop part of a block,
Mhm.
and you wanna consider the bottom one requires your whole plan to be figured out for the block, doesn't it?
Say that again.
B requires the whole block to be planned out.
It's a proposed.
A allows the top half of a block to be developed out if in fact if you consider the whole block. So to me,
Your conceptual integrated development plans already cover that, right? You're already requiring when you develop to consider what the potential uses are around you.
Right,
Okay.
and so this was floated, and
Great.
Bill kind of said, well, this is what's being done. I think it was something about traffic. It's conceptual integrated traffic or roads or something like that, and so I wanted to take the traffic out to consider utilities and consider all of those things, not just traffic, and so what it's not a binding plan to future development. It's just saying that this is a way that this could happen, and so there's something that's workable here to make sure that we're not, blocking things that prevent good quality development from happening in the future on the remainder of the block. And then this again, I think it was revised 13 times. This is the sequencing. This is what Beth was calling the linear. Or leapfrog. This is what we have left of the idea that we want to, because of economics and the cost of running utilities and all of that. We don't want leapfrog stuff. So it's discourage rezoning of land that is surrounded by agricultural zoning. So if something is not surrounded by agricultural zoning, then it would be linear development. At least it could be attached on both sides, but. That's where we're at. That's what
silly
it's supposed to be
question,
getting
does
at.
surround mean all sides, or does surround mean 2 sides, 3 sides? What does surround mean?
I think surround by itself means all the way around.
In other words, yeah, I mean.
I just wanna make sure, I just wanna make sure we're on the
It's
same page.
allowing for what somebody else called linear, like in other words, if there's a development there and going down the road, you can work with that. But then the second part of that, the conceptual integrated development plan is also going to address some of that. Bill Pepperoni had A, B, and C as they were written, so I would put A back in.
Do you wanna put in parentheses, linear, no leapfrogging, just to, so
I don't
people
think
can
it's needed,
understand
I think they understand what the concept means.
We are going out to the public for this. Would
We can-
just
we
a
can-
parentheses, no leapfrog development, would that get the point across? So the public's not having this conversation with
On this
themselves?
one?
On C, yeah?
I think so, I think it's pretty vague, and that's why I asked the question, what are we talking about here?
And I think that's consistent already with what's in our general plan for the area anyway, that we don't allow that.
We discourage it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't get proposed and then approved. And so we're just reinforcing. Okay, so A got put back in. Thumbs up if you want A in, thumbs down if you want A out. I'm not gonna vote, I don't care. Anyone care?
My only problem is if a small landowner wants to develop his piece, say there's a couple acres, they wanna build 3 houses for their kids to come in.
Yep.
They've gotta get that whole block rezoned, and that impacts into farmers, cause they don't wanna get it out of our agriculture.
Yeah.
You don't have to
So
reblock
no longer
the zone-
says
you don't have to
rezone.
rezone the whole block, you just have to consider what the full block would look like. In other words, I think they're saying, don't put a commercial use right in the middle of a residential neighborhood.
Just like 500 feet around the perimeter.
That's what it is now, is 500, and so this is suggesting that it shouldn't just be 500, it should be, consider the whole block.
But if you're gonna do something like that, which a lot of my farmers would like to do, you can't build those on less than 5 acre plots, right? So they're wanting that to be lower, like what Beth was saying, Highland did with 1 acre plots or something.
And still keep it there,
Yeah.
agriculture, well, that would require a rezone.
Right, but I don't think the city allows that at this point. Do they? Because my farmers are saying they don't, they would like to upgrade their homes and still stay on the same property or build a home for their kids. But my farmers are under the impression they have to have 5 acres to do that.
If
I think that's a county.
If they live in an A15 zone, that would be required, unless there's a rezone. Do we want, where would that be addressed? Would that be addressed up in 1? Policy 1? Maybe it could be argued that that would be developmentally supported agriculture.
Just hit the red button on my side.
That affects my viewpoint too, and some of the farmers over our way. What if a son wants a building lot on the farm? And I gotta cut him off 5 acres? Or can I just cut him off a half-acre building lot? If he wants 1 acre, can I cut him off a 1 acre? Can Provo City change that and get away from the county law on that, or the state law, to make it so that in Provo City, if somebody wants to get a rezone for 1 house for his son or daughter, then it's not gonna be terribly hard.
I guess it's how we weight the word reconsider. I mean, I can say, I considered it, but it's not gonna work, so boom, we're moving on. You know, so I don't know what that
Can we
really
ask,
says.
can we ask the agricultural committee to take a look at that concern? And
Yeah, I don't know that we would understand the zoning laws as well as planning people.
okay, well, I would hope that you would have the support of planning people as you meet.
You can certainly ask them to consider these things.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
No matter what you put, no
Yeah,
matter what you agree to tonight, you're going to get another crack at revising these things based on the other comments you get. So I wouldn't stress it too much.
And we're low on time, we'll say it that way. Okay.
So can we leave 6 as it is now then?
Okay, 7. Okay, restrict development on wetlands and other environmentally sensitive areas. There were no comments on it, so you probably all had a chance to look at it. So let's just.
Terry
can I
Harvard's
suggest something here?
comment was on this 7A.
Okay, that's
just
right,
worried
and
about
that's what Mr.
West
Connect
of 3110.
And what is west of? Oh, okay. So that isn't that airport protection zone anyway?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Bill Pepperoni had written land south and west of the Lakeview Parkway up to Center Street, except in the airport protection area. And this is what's new for you here. It says, should be preserved for open space and agricultural uses. Houses in conjunction with bona fide farms are permissible where access and utilities can provide efficiently. Now, someone else had, here, Phil Rash had made a comment on there, and he said, oh yeah, so he thought that so that part was cut out, and Phil Rash had, and Dave Connect had actually captured that in some notes that they gave me, saying that less in the agricultural zone. So I think we should put that extra stuff back in there, but, the actual specifics of where to develop, like, I think it was Phil or Terry Herbert made the comment that west of Lakeview, and north of Center should be open to home building, or west of, so basically the area, essentially north of Center, north of Center and west of Lakeview. So the language I think that we've got up here is to protect it already. So the area to there is covered, the area above that is open for development.
So what, his comment's already incorporated in this.
He had more though, he had after airport protection area, right?
Sorry, I was talking about, Mr. Herbert's comment.
Yes.
Okay.
He's already captured that. The other part that Bill had in there was should be preserved for open space and agricultural, and uses. Houses in conjunction with bona fide farms are permissible where access and utilities can be provided efficiently.
Okay, so my understanding, so I thought at one point, and this was, and I was hoping Bill would be here so I could ask him about this, but at one point, he said, okay, you know, are there some things that we can all agree on? And one of those things was that there would be no homes, residential or agricultural, outside of the Lakeview Parkway. And I thought the whole committee said, yes, we want that. Later on, there was, Mr. Connect had brought up this idea of, well, you know, what if someone wants to have a little homestead out there? And there was a lot of back and forth about, well, you can't have a septic tank out there, and the engineer doesn't want to run stuff out there. And he said, well, what if new technology was invented, like, you know, composting toilets or something that would allow it to be out there?
This is anything west of the Lakeview Parkway.
Yes. Anything south?
Is there no sewage out there?
There's no sewage out there.
So this is what he had on here.
So in this area that you're talking about, west of 3110, kind of the airport has sewer.
Okay, but that's not what's written in here.
And up to like Utah Lake State Park, it has a sewer.
Right. And so this very specifically says would allow south and west of the Lakeview Parkway up to Center Street. Oh.
This is what
so
Bill
this
had.
has changed since.
This is what Bill had.
Okay. But oh yeah, it did change. I was very explicit about up to the airport, that shouldn't be done, and then once you get past the river, anything on the outside of the parkway should not be inhabited.
But there already are houses there, right?
Where?
West
West of the proposed continuation of the parkway. Well, like the trailer park, the campground.
But that's south of the river.
No, it's some north, there's some north of that, I think too, Lana, I think you're right.
Does Spain have a house out there?
Well, and then where the ropes course is.
The ropes course, exactly.
And, the Hallidays have homes there.
But that's south of the river.
South of the river.
Oh, south of the river, but it's not,
Yeah,
it's
not Center Street. South of the river.
Put river.
I think there are still homes there. That little rest home.
And that's the case. We're talking about new development here. And again,
I would agree with that.
and so my suggestion, and I still would like to advocate for this, that I think writing it by like no buildings designed to be occupied by humans, that way, you know, the point was, well, there's already a radio tower out there. It's like, okay, that's fine, but that's not, you know, that's not a home, or that's not a
Doesn't require
business.
services.
Yeah, it doesn't require the services.
I understand.
Rather than saying houses in conjunction, just this part here, you know, I thought we had all kind of agreed on not allowing houses.
Well, this
out there,
is Dave
period.
Connect talking, remember he talked about that and he said
Yeah.
that if let's say technology changed or
Right.
something changed and you could allow it, but right now that language would prevent you from doing it because you can't really.
Right, and I think the policy should be that no houses should be out there, and if there's a big game changer technology-wise, people can change the policy in
How
the
far
future.
north does the airport protection zone go?
31, it goes up adjacent to 3110 south up to Center Street.
Only to Center Street, yeah.
Center Street to the west.
Do we need to look at a map just?
That's
before
what I'm
we
looking
do
at.
that?
So if you wanted to do what you said, you don't have to say no buildings, you could just say right here, that would cover it, and delete that part below. It would be the same as having no houses.
That's fine, that's fine.
Okay, the other thing is that if you have,
Is there anything over here?
the only question that was out there was on that south side where there's, I'm trying to think what's out there.
Can we pull up a map? Does that take?
Yeah, maybe we can. Then,
While he's doing that, pull out your piece of paper. Last part beyond that is talking about flood-prone areas.
Does there need to be a different definition? I know we've talked about Terry goes to the compromise level and others, I just don't know what flood prone.
That would show up the details in the.
There's a very different tone if you say no development should be allowed unless, or if you say the proactive, any development requires mitigation if in. It's a very different tone you're setting. I'm not sure which tone you're trying to set.
Okay.
But if we listen like you were saying, that one, if in fact they move this line, the feds do, then you change the world.
And I think that's why we kind of picked that language of flood-prone areas.
So my only question, whether you make it more of the affirmative, is any development in flood-prone areas must be, and I've heard a couple people even mention, be mitigated properly so it does not have effect on them or neighboring properties or whatever.
Yeah.
I've heard,
We've already had that problem with Osprey.
yeah, and so I've heard that, and so,
The mouse is playing.
Yeah.
The area you're talking about is right in there. Oh, that one works.
But there's
yeah.
still a lot of undevelopable land that is this side of it.
So
and
yeah,
I'm referring
here's
to
the road.
only inside of the
I'm just here to talk.
parkway.
Oh, yeah, inside the parkway, there's still a lot of marshland, it's a swamp.
Right, and that's what we're addressing with B. A is saying basically anything below here, or what I would like it to say is anything below here up to the airport, and anything here. Well, sorry, if it comes here, anything.
Okay, so
North of the river.
The way it's defined, the way they define, some of this delta stuff is already undevelopable.
Right.
The question is, right now, the plans, you could develop in this corridor here. And so the suggestion was that the line be Center Street. And then the only question was, there seemed to be no question about whether or not to develop under here. The question was, any of these farmlands out here, could you build a house if you were farming it? And that's why he had the exception in there, that if you could do it, you could build it.
Oh.
But generally, the area north was developable right along this corridor right here.
I'm personally okay with anything in here, so long as one, flood mitigation stuff is considered, and two, actually, I think this is part of the airport protection zone, so no houses can be here, so we're only talking about that now.
Right, and this part right here is not developable anyway, that's part of the delta.
Spain.
So the only area that is in question still really is right in here. And what I would suggest is go with the language. We can map it out when we do the open house, see what kind of comments you get back. And you may have somebody over here say, wait a minute, I want to build my dream house right here. But we'll wait and see.
Okay. Thoughts on that? Can we go back to the language then?
Don, does the boundary for the June Sucker Delta, is that about where the road is the proposed road, or is there space between the continuation of the West Side Connector and the beginning of the Delta, June Sucker Delta? Is there some space
There's
there?
some space
There
between
is space there.
the Fisher land.
So the only question I have for you is I think we can delete that, leave that in there. The question is, do you want to allow this, do you want this in there for discussion purposes, or do you want to cut it out entirely?
Good. To me, this opens it up for, like the land south.
Right. So you could define that as, you could say that peninsular access efficiently
Could they not
west
into
of
that sewer?
Lakeland
It's
Parkway, but
not
not south, I guess.
My proposal is leave it out, and then we'll see what what feedback comes back. Okay.
This is the part that you said.
And then the document we would send, we'll give some definitions as an explanation, but really 1 through 7 and the purpose up on top is what you're
Yep,
voting on.
and we can have footnotes or whatever, but this is, okay. I propose that we vote on this.
Wait, I need to.
Um,
I have one more question.
yeah.
On B. So,
Which one?
B.
B.
7B.
No,
There we go.
what is B?
There you go.
Okay, in the, let's see, flood prone areas. So they are flood prone areas even east and north of the Lakeview connection, right?
Sorry, yes, but I do want to get back to yours. We never addressed that, but let's get back to that. Sorry, go ahead.
So, I mean, it's a major problem, right? That we're saying that we're gonna have to rise up to 145, whatever level.
Yes, it is a problem.
And so the proposal is we're gonna change this, so it says, any development occurring in flood-prone areas must mitigate the risk of the flooding, however we say that. And then plans for mitigation have to be approved. Make sure, that we're, to ensure that sensitive lands are appropriately developed to protect people, property, and significant natural features, and mitigation plans should not adversely affect adjacent properties.
So are the, like the new one that's going in, named after the bird, which one's that?
Osprey Point?
Has that been raised? Isn't it sitting in the flood zone?
Yes, it has been raised.
Yes.
And then we had problems with our existing neighborhood about water running into their yards, our existing neighborhood yards, because they are so much taller than we are.
And then I thought that the work has happened since then. They're putting in a retaining wall
They
and.
did put in the retaining wall, but we also asked for some kind of drainage there.
So that's why there's mitigation plans that we need to make sure we're protecting adjacent property.
David.
You're right on that.
Yes.
In, David, in our development, don't we have to keep the water on the property? Now, we can't send it to the sides anymore. Doesn't everything have to be contained?
They're required to maintain the water on their own property.
Like before, we just build it up and then all go to the properties and,
Or direct it to some storm.
So-
yeah, but now it's gotta,
So most of their yards go out to the road and then we collect it in the storm drain system. The backyards, however, are just designed to contain the water within the backyard. So it's just, the water coming out of the sky lands in the backyard for the most part. So you're getting about, 14 inches of water a year that falls out of the sky on the backyard.
Can we change this to the affirmative?
Which one?
The first sentence in B. So any development.
And are we specifying,
Okay. Can we get
You know what that occurs in, yeah.
wait, are we specifying the new line or the old line?
I support it.
Okay, you support it?
Or call me on the phone and I'll say aye.
Okay.
I just said aye.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sorry for keeping you late.
I just think this is huge, because I've seen how that floods.
Okay. So do you think that needs to be beefed up more, or what's your proposal? How would you
What do you
change
say,
it?
are we using the old flood line or the new
I think
flood
it's
line?
saying, I think what we're saying, and the way I read that, is any flood prone area. So if, however, whatever the group and the extras define as flood prone, you're.
Well, but, so does,
And
a
we're-
developer needs to look at the map and go, that is the flood line.
So what my interpretation of this is, we're being general. We're saying flood prone areas, and then we'll let the planners, we'll let the people who write the actual laws be specific. But we're just saying it needs to be.
Because you can have an area next to the freeway that is not in the floodplain, but still be flood prone. And this protects you, I think, even broader than defining the line.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I can think of some grandeur areas that flood, that are not in the floodplain, yeah.
Maybe the policy you want to adopt, and I'm not gonna suggest you shouldn't do it, but from a practical standpoint, it's extremely uneconomical to do lake flood mitigation efforts on a development by development basis.
Okay.
So to a certain degree, you're saying the policy you want, but you're not really doing anything in terms of telling the developers what they can and can't do. If you're serious about mitigating, like allowing development in areas that are subject to flooding from lake elevation, you really need to be doing it on a larger scale basis than development by development. Otherwise, what you're really telling developers is, if our policy is let the developers worry about it when they develop, what you're really saying is, if you want to develop in flood-prone elevations, you just need to bring in lots of fill. And if we don't really want to deal with the community-wide question of protecting undeveloped areas, currently undeveloped areas from lake flooding, then maybe we just ought to say what we're really saying.
I just want something in here that says, and again, these are just policies that we're recommending.
And I don't think you can say, I'm not looking at how to draft this as a positive. I don't think you can. I think this
Okay.
one needs to say no development.
Keep it negative.
Okay, keep it negative, undo it, and we're losing people. I really want a quorum at the very least, and maybe we can get the others to read over it and just check off on it after the fact. But as that changes, I'd like to make a motion, or no, I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve
This motion here.
the draft West Provo development policies and submit said draft policies to a West Side stakeholders meeting for comment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll make that plural.
Okay, looking for a second. Mr. Winterton, okay,
So is the stakeholders meeting gonna be an online thing, or are we gonna have a physical meeting?
physical meeting. And
We
it's
can actually do it,
tentatively-
we can actually do it both ways. We can put it online, we could actually set up kiosks there, but the intent is to have a public meeting, as we promised, on the west side, so that residents can come and see what this says, consider maps that talk about, anything that's appropriate to help educate as to the policies, and then make comment on it.
Could we put in for public comment, including a West Side stakeholders meeting?
That was implied in my motion.
Thank you. Does that address your question?
Yes, yes.
All right. All in favor?
Can I add one more? West Side stakeholders meeting and on open city hall, if you're okay with that?
I think that's what I said.
Are we still good with the second? Are we still good with the second?
Yes.
All right. All in favor?
Do you want me to vote?
Not this one. And any opposed? Okay, excellent.
Okay, so I think that gives us, including K7.
Yeah.
Can I say something to you all?
Can we just read off your names
Yeah.
since some people have left, just so we're good. Bill, if you'll start.
Bill Holterstrom.
Gary Winterton.
Sarah McNair. LaDawn Christensen.
And Dave Hardy. Okay, and we'll pass this out to other committee members and ask if they want to add their vote to it.
Shannon on the phone.
She dropped the call, but so I'll note that she abstained from voting since she's not present.
She's not here at this point, you don't worry about it. You just said, of the people that were here, did you unanimous?
Okay.
And then the first thing, let's get this out to the other all committee members.
So what we'll do is we'll clean this up so that it's presentable tomorrow. We have set aside, on February
28th.
On February, I think it's the 16th, is that a Thursday?
Oh, thanks. Sorry, I'm excited.
Okay, February 16th, Fort Utah neighborhood has an election at 6 o'clock. So we were suggesting that it's either 6:30, which is probably better than 7. At 6:30, we would have an open house for an hour or so to discuss this, an hour and a half maybe, and you can have a bit of a presentation, you can do an open house, however you want to structure it, but that would be the night. And let me see if I can figure out what school it's at. It's at Amelia Earhart Elementary. And so we'll get all that noticed out to everybody, and
That goes in the newspaper.
Cliff,
however we notice it, we'll notice it.
can you get that to me as soon as you can, and I will get notes on it.
It'll be out by Thursday.
You have my email. You will email me.
Huh?
You will email me?
That's right.
Okay, I don't wanna hold anyone any longer. And then we have implied motions, but I don't wanna wrap my head
Are
around
we
it.
now done?
I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
No, my question is, are we done process-wise?
No,
for
so what
argument?
happens now is after the comments, we'll gather them, we'll circulate them, we'll ask you to come back on the 28th, consider any changes to it, and if you're ready to go from there, you send it to council.
Okay.
And then the only question is what process, how are you used going forward when the planner starts reviewing it?
And with that in mind, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, thank you. Second? Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? All right.
A difficult task, I applaud you all.
Thank you. I apologize for taking an extra half hour, but I'm glad that we're done and we